Today is Tuesday, May the 15th, 2018, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and your questions because that makes this your show. And let's welcome Michael, and we do already have a caller. Hi, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, sweetie. Delighted once again to have you sharing this space with us as we enter into this conversation about first century Aramaic forgiveness, a primary motivator of doing this show. Lots of corollary material to work with to make the forgiveness process seem, or at least understandable, and recognize its value in a world where we're trained to value all sorts of things that have no value whatsoever. And the lesson for today is lesson 133 from A Course in Miracles, and it speaks of the idea that I will not value the valueless. I'm going to look for what is it that really has value and recognize that all the goals, all the desires that the world sets up, if they are not in alignment with our existence as the active presence of love, hold no value whatsoever. And so to function out of a space where the first thing I do when I set a goal is I check out and see if it is in fact going to bring about loving results, that is, results that support me experiencing myself and others experiencing themselves as the active presence of love, as their true state of being. If that criteria is met, then you've got a goal that has value. If that criteria is not met, in the end, it will bring nothing but sorrow. Let it go. Free yourself from it and go back toward that which has value, and bringing about results in the world that are in alignment with your purpose. And your purpose, one of the highest priority purposes that a human being can have, is to function as a human being. If we hold the newborn child, we get a very clear definition of what love is, and we get a very clear experience of who we are as human beings, and recognize that in order for something to have value, it's got to support that expression and that experience in the world, and bring our purpose as human beings, as these creatures based in love, forward into the world and into expression. So that's what we're here to understand. That's what we're here to support. And we're delighted that you're here. And Jeanie, if you've got a hand up, let's say hello to our caller.
All right. It's area code 775. You're on the air. Who do we have?
This is Laura.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm a member of Dr. Andraki's support group. I'm sorry?
I say fabulous. Glad to have you with us.
Yes.
How can we support you today?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
You're
you.
blessed to have both of them out there.
Absolutely. They're wonderful. They're just wonderful. I had the paramedics out to my home again this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I didn't understand the word you said. You had a...
I had paramedics at my house at 4 this morning.
Oh, okay.
And it's the second time. I've had panic attacks all my life, but they're becoming closer together. And then I start panicking about having panic attacks, which is ridiculous, but you can't help it. I don't understand where this generalized anxiety is coming from. I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder, but if you can't put your finger on what is bothering you, how can you fix it? I've done worksheets. I had a horrendous childhood. I'm not saying that my parents are to blame for anything, because I've had a very successful life, and I've raised 3 wonderfully kind, successful women. But I don't know how to work this out. I don't know how. I've had panic attacks all my life. I'm not going to babble anymore. I'll let you speak.
Okay. Well, first off, know that we're here to hold the space for you. And one of the most important things in moving through anything based in either fear or hostility is that whatever it is that's at the root of the problem has to come forward in the presence of love in order to be dissolved. So know that we're here to hold this space, whether you're on the air or you're not. And, oftentimes there'll be an effort to try to figure out what the problem is. And figure it out looks like, well, is it this, is it this, is it that, is it that? And we suggest you let go of trying to figure it out, that, when you realize the complexity of all the things that come together to make up any particular perceptual construct, whether it's one based in love or based in panic, is an impossibility. But what you want to do is determine how you're going to walk through the world, and I'd offer it sounds like the work you're doing with Stephen and Claudia, that it is to function as love. And when you're not able to look at the object of attention that your mind is showing you, that, and your mind is telling you is the cause of your upset. Is the cause of my upset my panic internal? Gee, I'm afraid I'm not good enough, or I'll be found out, or somebody will recognize, whatever the object of the disturbance seems to be, and then look for the goal that you hold in that circumstance. So let's say let's just take an example that someone might be in panic over, there's a totally and completely hidden thought about I'm not good enough. And every time that thought threatens to come to the surface, an accompanying thought is, and somebody might notice that and expose me. So then if I've got the awareness, if I can bring forward the awareness that, okay, that's what's going on at this moment for me, is, I'm afraid somebody's going to expose me. Then the goal is the key to being able to collapse that output from the mind, that particular perceptual construct. And when you cancel that goal, then that particular panic mode collapses in on itself and gives you access to what's underneath it. And so,
do you think generally I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you think generally that in generalized anxiety disorder that's the root cause, that I don't feel that I'm good enough, and that I fear that I'm going to be found out?
I'm just using that as an example. It could be 1,000 different specifics, but does that resonate for you? Does that seem to fit? Maybe I just accidentally picked it.
Does. It does.
Okay. So then what the forgiveness process would look like in that circumstance, I'm on my way into the office to go to work, and I know I've got a meeting with my boss, and he's going to give me a review for the year. And, oh my God, am I going to be found out? So the goal in that circumstance, as I'm in my car driving in all this panic as I'm thinking about this review, would be for my boss to be in total support of me and give me a good review. So that my goal that drives the mind to surface that sort of dynamic that creates panic. And so when I cancel the goal for the boss to give me a good review, or, my spouse is coming home and, we've had occasions where something's been out of place and they've gone into a tirade and blamed me for it. So my goal might be, in that circumstance, I'm thinking about my spouse coming home, and all of a sudden this panic starts to move in me. So the goal I'd be canceling would be the goal for everything to be peaceful and in sweetness when my spouse gets home. as I cancel that. So ultimately what you're looking to do is to collapse whatever the construct is by identifying the specific goal in the specific situation that's driving that construct. And as it collapses...
I think that's my hardest problem is the first one that you touched on, not being good enough.
Right.
That's the story of my life. I don't think I was a good enough mother, a good enough, executive, you know what I mean. But I'm not sure that's all of it. I can't get to it. I feel like I'm closed off from it. And I'm very good at compartmentalizing, which is what abused children do when they have to go to school and pretend everything is hunky-dory. You have to compartmentalize or you'll go nuts. So my mind has become very good at compartmentalizing, and I think it's become too good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it won't let me access what I want to access.
Right. So in the context of this work, that compartmentalization would be denial and dissociation, dissociating from the part of my mind. And that's where, as I pay attention and I cancel the goal that's driving my perceptual system to use that particular compartmentalized part of my mind to build this dynamic of panic, then when I pay attention to, and this is just, something that for me I've learned to do just to develop as a skill through practice. It's like I can't give you an ABC set of rules, at least I haven't discovered one. Maybe Dr. Kim would have some help for us there. But just through practice to be looking at in the generalized situation. And, it might be something that isn't going to happen for 3 days, but I have very likely an unconscious goal for a circumstance. I just found out I'm having that work review, but it's not for 3 days, and so I think it's not related. And yet having the goal to be seen as perfect and to be seen as good enough, and then canceling that goal, when you hit the right frequency of goal, that's what's going to allow you to drop into what's under the root of this panic and release it. The other thing to do is to really pay attention to your brain and your breath. As your mind is going towards this panic mode, what's happening with your breath? And I'm not sure whether Claudia does. Go ahead.
I'm not even aware it's going to happen, and it's just like a heart attack. The pain in my chest is crushing. I'm sweating, and I'm in total panic. And I don't usually call the paramedics, but today was especially bad. Dr. Andronki has prescribed alprazolam for that particular problem. I'm not thrilled about taking him, but he wants me to for right now. So I take one of those, and it goes away in a half an hour. And I asked the paramedics today, is that indicative of the fact that it's a panic attack and not a heart attack? And he said yes. If it regularly goes away at the same time when you take a Xanax, then it is a panic attack. So they didn't take me into the hospital because it was a repeat pattern. So anyway, go ahead. But it's just the most horrible feeling in my whole life. It's just, you feel like you're dying.
I hear you. Can you remember as a child ever being in, and remember one of the principles that produces the power person dynamic that tends to govern our lives is that we perceived in the circumstance where whatever happened with the power person happened, that it was a survival situation. Can you remember the first time that you really felt like this is life-threatening?
Yes, I can actually. My power person is my father. I admired him so much, but he was two different people, as so often happens. Here he was, VP of Hilton Hotels, and he would come home and drink himself into oblivion Most of the time, I was the most wonderful thing in the world. But about 30% of the time, I was a two-bit whore. Sorry to say that, but he was that drunk.
I understand.
I mean, but he was a wonderful man. I'm so conflicted over that.
Okay. So let's see how that's what you bring up. You got a pen and paper handy?
I do.
Let's just make a list of all of the goals that you could fathom from any time in your life that you had for your father. And I would start with, if my dad's calling me a two-bit whore, certainly, and it's because of his drunken state of mind. It's got nothing to do with me. Obviously, I would be wanting my father to speak to me lovingly, gently, respectfully.
Yes.
That would be a core goal for Dad. So I'd write that one down.
Okay.
I'd be wanting Dad's approval and affirmation.
And I had that when he was sober.
Right. Then the next one might be that I wanted him to stay sober.
Mm-hmm.
That I wanted him to care enough for himself to stay sober. I wanted him to care enough for me that he would stay sober. Each of these would be goals to work on.
So I would have the same ones for my mother because she kind of fell in with him, and I guess she figured if you can't beat him, join him. Unfortunately,
it was the easy way to go.
She was a non-functional alcoholic, and when she drank, it was 24/7. So when I came home, I never knew if she was going to be in the closet with a bottle. I had to find her. I couldn't find her sometimes when I came home, and I panicked. I mean, this is in the middle of Beverly Hills. Things don't happen like that.
I hear you. Sadly,
I felt like I had to hide it.
So go back to the moment where you're going home. You're on your way home from school. You know that Dad isn't there. You have no idea what state Mom's going to be in or where she's going to be. What would be the goals?
Right.
You notice she used the word panic there with Mom. So what would the goals you would have with Mom be? They'd be for Mom to be there for you, to be a real mom.
Yes.
They'd be for Mom to be able to support you, to feed you, to nurture you, to take care of you. All of those things would be goals that I'd be putting on worksheets and seeing what happens as I cancel each one of them.
Okay.
I wanted Mom to be the adult. It sounds like you had to be the adult and Mom was the kid.
Yes.
And the misbehaving kid at that. So I wanted Mom to behave.
Yes, very much. And it just
you writing
never
these
happened.
down?
I am.
You read it?
I am.
Good.
I am.
So it might
I'll try to
also
break those
fit
things
into.
Down.
Say again?
I am going to try to pinpoint certain things that caused this kind of feeling in me as a child.
Yeah. So, and really it wouldn't be causing those things in you as a child, but you came out of the genes of your mother and father. And obviously, if Mom and Dad were that dysfunctional when it came to alcohol, then there were dynamics and feelings that go beyond, probably way beyond panic. And you were the inheritor of that. It's very possible that what's at the root of this panic doesn't even belong to you. It's simply in your field because you came out of the egg and the sperm of two people who were so dysfunctional that they were drinking themselves to death.
It's a it's a genetically or generational issue then?
Very, very likely, or at least contributing factors would probably be generational, yes, if not directly. What it is that you're ultimately going to have to uncover very likely will be generational, or at least factors involved. And it might be, let's say, for instance, I'm going home, I'm a small child. It might be a goal as simple as, I want my mother to be there to greet me and hug me and hold me. I had a bad day at school.
Yeah.
I want
That
my
never
mother
happened.
to be there to feed me, right? So write these goals down, because these would be the places to work. If you're having difficulty, tapping into what are the goals that need to be canceled, this will give you a good piece of groundwork to start to work with on the next level to clean this up.
Okay.
So it might be as simple as, I want mom to be there. Good breath. That's it. You're getting close to it. That's the breath. That's the opening. Now notice how differently you feel right now compared to 30 seconds ago. What just happened?
I just relaxed.
Yeah, good.
Oh, thank you so much.
So breathe into that. Breathe into that and be with that relaxation. Just hold yourself in a space of love and let yourself feel that relaxation.
Okay.
Breathe into it deeply. And you've been working with Ruka, so you're familiar with Ruka Dakuja.
Yes.
As you breathe into that deeply, just ask Ruka Dakuja to install this state of relaxation and peace that you just achieved. Like, install it so that it's yours as a resource for the future. So anytime panic starts, you can take a breath. You can just touch your thumb to your first two fingers and go, oh, yeah, I remember what that state of relaxation and peace is.
Okay.
Just a simple reminder of, as you're asking Ruka to do this, just take your thumb and touch it to your first two fingers on either hand or both hands.
Okay.
And as you touch them together, just install this, remembering that I always have this state of peace available to me just by touching my thumb and fingers together. Remind me to go here.
Okay.
And breathe.
Thank you so much.
And then
I'm breathing.
over the next few days, good. So over the next few days, just take this moment where you just had that release. And, you had the release because we touched into a goal that's tied into, and you're able to let that go just kind of automatically. So it's clear you have been using worksheets. And as that happens, you get to soften into that space.
Yes. And
This
have
is
been
a
using
resource you can call on, if something triggers this panic again. And over time, my offering would be you can totally, completely, 100% dissolve any sort of panic feeling and be in this state of peace, because that's your natural state. And while there are, from what you're describing of what Dad used to do, going into such a stupor, and Mom 24/7 being just totally dysfunctional, you're very likely the first person in your bloodline that ever thought this pain, this trauma, this panic, I can actually face and get rid of. Like, neither of them probably, it sounds like Dad was probably pretty high-level intelligence. He's just at that level in a large corporation. He's got to be a genius.
He was a flippin' genius. He really was.
Yeah, I got it. But it probably never occurred to him that there was a way he could handle his pain, his fear, and his panic.
True. Isn't that crazy?
How many times, how long do you suppose it took for Mom to be home? And I'm assuming she was likely a housewife in that day and age with a husband who's an executive. How often do you suppose he came home in that drunken state, raging, calling her the words you used that he used with you?
Oh, he never went out of the house. He did it at home.
Okay. So how many times do you suppose that the young woman, newly married, her husband's under stress, he's sitting in the back room, getting drunk, how many times do you suppose she sat in terror, just waiting for him to come out and begin to berate her?
Yes, I can imagine.
And what do you suppose the goals were that she held And she never conceived of there's anything I can do about this, or she would have done it. And so she just
That's right.
took the bottle and went with him, it sounds like. So you can
That's right.
you can actually do wake-up sheets for her. Imagine breathing into her space. Imagine breathing into her space. You know, she's newly married. She's 25. She's been married for 2 years. And this is the third time that her husband sat in the back room and gotten so drunk and come out and been abusive. And the terror that she lives under, and the not knowing, and the panic, and the fear, and the rage, and the guilt, and what's wrong with me, and it's my fault, and all the things that go with it. So all those goals that we just went over that you can cancel for you, you can also cancel for her. You can cancel for her. So imagine that you're her doing those worksheets.
Okay.
Good breath. Yeah. And then you can do the same thing for Dad. Imagine your dad.
It's going to make me cry.
Go for it. This is perfect. Let yourself feel it 100%. What's that about? What are the tears that want to come about when I say that?
The tears, I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at him.
So Dad's an intelligent, competent man. How hopeless and helpless do you suppose he feels when he comes out of one of these stupors and realizes what he's done and has no clue how to do anything about it?
Oh, yes. But I'm telling you, that man never missed 10 minutes of work, and he walked out of the house looking like, he was GQ. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
It just amazed me that he could drink that much and function on such a high level.
That's pretty amazing, yes. And yet, what do you suppose he was carrying around inside himself as the self? He was able to put on a really good show. He had a functional self he could pull together and show a face to the world that was awesome. But how?
Oh, my God, that's what I did. That's what I did all my life.
Yeah.
Holy
here's
crap.
the truth of it. Go for it. Breathe. Yeah. So here's the truth. You don't have to put on that face anymore. You don't have to carry that load. That was probably part of his drinking, was the load he had to carry, because the self that existed underneath, the false self that he developed, had some flaws that were beyond his comprehension.
He was abused as a child.
Yeah. And no idea how to deal with it.
Right. Bless his heart.
Yeah, big time. I join you in blessing his heart, because that's a load that no human being should have to carry. And certainly no human being should be so unconscious as to pass on to their children. But it's a family tradition.
Yes.
Until we know better, we don't know how to do anything else.
That's right.
So that would be another round of goals to look at.
I feel like I was a crappy mother, but my children have just turned out to be so healthy emotionally and physically. I must have done something right.
So obviously that's a story that you tell yourself about this crappy mother, and it's probably the story that Dad told himself about how he was a crappy father. It's a family tradition. I don't know if you're familiar with Hank Williams, but Hank Williams Jr.
Oh, yes.
There's a song, and it's one of my favorite melodies. It says, "Hank, why do you drink? Why do you blow smoke? Why must you live out every song that you wrote?" It's a family tradition.
It's one of my favorite songs.
So here's how to break the family tradition.
Okay.
Cancel your need for Dad to be able to heal himself. Cancel your need for Dad to be able to see himself truly as who he is. Cancel your need for you to be able to heal yourself and see yourself truly as who you are.
Okay.
And breathe deeply into that.
I have a lot of worksheets ahead of me.
Well, it's a process. There's a young man who actually, there's a radio show where he did a testimony of his work, doing this work. He was former military. His pride and joy was the fact that he was the best killer in his unit. And as that, living in that space, when he finally came out of the military injured, turned to alcohol, and literally one day found himself on the floor. And fortunately, I forget whether it was a belt or a rope, had broken, and he wasn't successful in hanging himself.
Oh God!
He had so much. He had so much trauma that he and his wife could not sleep. Actually, they weren't married at the time. She would not marry him because he would become so violent in the middle of the night and almost choke her to death. She had to sleep in a separate room.
Right.
There, if you look down the radio show archives that are under, if you go to the home page on the website, the top of the page, you'll see the words say "Start Here." If you click there,
yes,
and then there's some radio shows. You'll see a testimony from Michael Coughlin, and it took him about 2 years, maybe 3, of really seriously doing this work. And he and his girlfriend, who wouldn't marry because he was so violent, now are delightfully married, sleep in the same bed every night, and have none of that. It's just totally, completely cleared that out of his life. So
wonderful.
You can do that, but of course we can't, like anything else, we can't do it if we don't have the tools.
Right.
And you've got the tools.
We have the tools. Yes, I do.
So if I were you, I'd continue my search for what are the goals. One of the goals we were on the edge of was, just I want Mom to greet me and have a sandwich ready for me and sit down and talk to me.
Yes.
I want Mom to make me my favorite hot chocolate. And cancel each of those goals. And as you do, what happened when you took that breath is that's where the spontaneous healing occurs, when you hit the right goal and are able to let go of it. And the breath takes you into the next depth of what needs to be exposed to love. And that's what brought that release and that state of peace. And that's your birthright. All the rest is false. Most of the world is living in it because they have no tools. They don't know how. You know exactly how. It'll take time. The process is not an event.
Yes, I know
and know that we're here to support you and walk you through that process.
Thank you so much for your help, Michael. I appreciate it.
Absolutely delighted. I think Jeannie's got some thoughts to share with you. Jeanie?
No, actually, I was just giving you a note of who was on the phone.
Oh, cool. Okay. Dr. Tim, let's check in with Dr. Tim and see if he's got anything to share with you.
Okay.
Hey,
well,
Tim.
I think if she just does the work that you and she just uncovered, that she'll be in great shape. And she's just demonstrated to herself that she can shift her internal state dramatically, even though nothing else outside of her has changed. So congratulations and good luck with the worksheets.
Thank you any more of your time. Thank you so much. Take care.
You're most welcome and deserving. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're here to hold the space, and we delight from hearing from you anytime you need support. Jeanie, you've got another hand up.
I do. It's area code 561. You're on the air. Who do we have?
You have Michael Crawford.
I love it. I love it. Jeanie handed me this note, and I thought she was suggesting that I share some of your story because it's so profound, the work you've done. I didn't realize that you were on the phone, so you get to hear right from the horse's mouth. Hey, Michael, good to hear from you. It's been a long time since I've heard your sweet voice.
Well, I had a visitor. And,
Tell us.
An old visitor, an old issue came back up, and I felt some old anger issues that I haven't felt in quite a while that I really thought I had gotten past, and they came up strong, and go figure. And
life is still giving you opportunities to learn forgiveness. How cool is that?
I know it's an ongoing trip, and what happened was, isn't it? Megan got married last week. We went up to Virginia for the wedding, and there's a little bit of drama. Megan's my youngest daughter, but it was a beautiful ceremony. And this week she is graduating from med school and actually putting on her military uniform for the first time. So we're going up there for that, and I'm very exciting. And I was offered to stay at her home. Her and her husband just bought a new home, and we were going to stay there. And then her mother, my ex-wife, threw a hissy fit, and everything fell apart. And so I got angry, and I'm not going to go up there. And why do I always get the short end of the stick? So you know what I did? I brewed on it for 3 days because that's what I did. And then I pulled out the commitment. I pulled out the commitment, and I read the commitment to Megan over and over again. And I was able to attach back to the truth of things that, God's in me, as me, is me. And so able to go to that quiet space, which we call love, which I now call God's space. I understand that it was simple. Nothing else mattered. No dance, no anger, no. And you remember, for those of you who remember me, I love anger. Okay, I did. It was my dance partner from a very, very early age. It served me well. It was my armor. It was many, many things. And if
it never served you for poop. It never served you for poop.
Yeah.
You thought it did.
I thought
in your disordered state of mind, it never served you for anything.
No, it didn't. And it was funny because
and it never will.
I'm working with a man right now. I am also in the 12-step program, and I'm working with a guy, and so I started pulling out some of the stuff that I work with you, and of course I gave let him know that it was non-AA approved literature, but it hit home, and so we're going to sit together tonight. Tomorrow afternoon. We're going to talk for a few hours, and we're going to go over some of the things, maybe do some sheets, and I think it's really going to move him in the right direction. Listen, folks, if you're new to the program, you're listening on the outskirts, Michael saved my life. Michael and Jeanie, I love them probably second and third from my list. My wife, my bride, and my children, and then Michael and Jeanie. Michael,
I didn't save your life. I didn't save your life. I didn't save your life, and neither did Jeanie. You chose to pick up the tools and do the work. You did the work.
I did.
This man that you're going to share the tools with tonight, if he picks them up and uses them, he'll save his life too. And you'll have been his support for it, but it'll be his willingness to do it.
That's right. And remember, we can carry the message, we just can't carry the mess. And, I gave these tools to both my children, God, I don't know, Michael, 10 years ago maybe?
Yeah,
9 years ago.
something like that.
And they just haven't quite chosen to pick them up. But I live it. Maybe I can be the example for them by walking into this and still being kind, being connected to love, and to hold a space of love. In the beginning,
awesome.
I went up there, and it was all I could do was to just keep my mouth shut. And then it became second nature. And then all of a sudden, I was so surprised that I was literally struggling with being able to go up there and hold that space. And so I realized that, I think one of the things that make this program work is that we have to be truthful with ourselves, a big T, big capital T. We have to be honest with ourselves. So when our stuff is up in our face, we can't look the other way, and we can't blame anybody else. I used to say that we have to use that truth periscope. You need to go through the crap that we're in and see the truth that lays outside of us. And really the only way we're going to do that is we identify and accept the stuff that's around us, our stuff, and we heal that. I mean, Michael is the bravest man I have ever met in my life. I mean, you have stood there in my fire. You stood there while I raged at the world and held a space of love, and I will always remember that and always admire you, and proud to be part of your teaching, and I'm proud to be a student of yours. I taught the class for a while, and I'm doing other things right now. I'm actually almost done with becoming a practitioner, and then I'm going to start working on becoming a reverend. And this is a guy who hated God, so that's a pretty huge step. And the man that was willing to take his own life and now wants to be a reverend is pretty amazing, And the people that we've met through your work, and the people that have touched my heart through your work, your beautiful bride, she's like a sister to me. I love her dearly, and other people, and there's friends of ours that have passed that I think about almost on a daily basis, and the stuff is so amazing, and it's so empowering. It's not just powerful, it is empowering to know. And to the woman who was on the phone before you, listen, I might have not come from the same situation, but my father left me when I was 8 months old. I was in the incubator. My mother was 17 when she was pregnant, and she abused me and tried to kill me at 5. So I had a tough upbringing too, and one of the biggest challenges I still have is a sense of self-worth. The demons come up every now and then, but I know that they're just shadows. That's exactly what they are. They're just shadows, because doubt and fear cannot exist in an environment of love. They can't. It can't. A candle can light up an entire room, but all the shadows in the world can't put the candle out. So you got to know what the truth is, and you got to embrace the truth. And sometimes that's hard. And I've got to be honest with you. Sometimes that's work. And many times I've cursed you while I did the work that you gave me. And Margaret, you become an adverb and an adjective. Margaret starts telling me things, and I'll be like, "Don't Michael me." but listen, it's the truth, man. This stuff works. I'm a walking, talking example of how it can literally change the path of one's life. I mean, you talked about some of the things with my bride. One thing you didn't mention is she would not marry me. I was not healthy enough to be a good man for her. I was not healthy enough to carry her love safely. And she was wise enough to understand that. And after coming to Heartland, and for, 3 times, all summer, I had magical things happen to me. I mean, emotional and spiritual. I became a healed man. I healed a child. I healed a warrior. I became a better man for my bride. I became a better man for society and for my friends. Hell, I became a better man for me. But I also healed physically. I came to Michael one time on a walker, heading to go to a wheelchair. I mean, I was done. The VA told me I was done. I walked out of there running up and down the hill and swimming across the lake. So we are linked physically, spiritually, and mentally. It is all one package. It is all one interconnected, interacting thing. So if you're having panic attacks, which I did, if you're having a drinking problem, which I was drinking 3 fifths of whiskey a day, and you're having physical problems, which VA put me on methadone for pain management. All this can be cured through this work. It can be cured when you put yourself into Ruka's hands, when you immerse yourself into the waters of God's love, of the divine universal mind. Nothing stays. Nothing clings on. Everything gets washed away. When you look at Yeshua's teachings, when you take it into the meaning that was meant in Aramaic, you understand that sin isn't what you think it is, evil isn't what you think it is, and it's all undoable. It is all undoable, and in God's world and God's love and Ruka's grace, you can overcome it all. You just got to do the work. And sometimes that work is infuriating. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes you'll get mad. Sometimes you'll get angry. And sometimes you'll get exhausted. But I promise you, in my life, and I mean this on the cellular level, on the very aspect of the soul that I now embrace, and every aspect that I can understand of God as I understand God, this work brought me to an understanding of one simple thing. God is love. God is Michael. Michael is love. That's all I need. That's all I need to get through absolutely everything. And you were absolutely instrumental in teaching me those lessons, my friend. Absolutely, positively amazing.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be on the team of supporting you and supporting your willingness to do your work. And it's interesting you had this whole major issue come up in your face, and here you are meeting with a gentleman tonight so that you get to teach what it is that you need to learn. How cool is that?
Well, somebody, I don't know who, but somebody once told me that we teach what we need to learn the most.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. I think that actually originally came out of Richard Bach's mouth, but yeah, that's the truth. And it's interesting that it comes, with what you had to do to move through this whole issue with your daughter and your former is right on track with the lesson from the course today, 133. I will not value what is valueless. And, there was a time when that rage and that anger was your protector, and it seemed like it had value. And then you said, whoops, I think I'll let go of that because it really doesn't have any. And what really has the value is that, bringing forth the truth of who we are. And
that was scary. That was really, really scary to let go. I mean, it was easier to quit the alcohol and the tobacco than it was to let go of that anger. It was a scary thing to be naked. But then I realized that I wasn't, that I had this entire suit of love around me that I just had covered up in mud and didn't realize. I didn't realize and embrace my true birthright, that innocence.
Okay, so now I'm going to go for a sacred cow. You're talking about being naked. How are you doing with that old nemesis called caffeine?
Yeah.
You knew I'd go there, didn't you?
Oh, my God. Well, I tell you what, I quit for almost a year, and then, we got into a major car accident, Margaret and I did, and I found that the caffeine was helping the migraines, and I didn't want to take the Botox shots in the head and the drugs they were giving me. So I figured natural caffeine every now and then would help me. So I pretty much, for the most part, just do it on medicinal purposes now, every now and then for joy, because I do love some coffee, but I'm way down to what I was. Right?
Okay.
I
didn't
coffee.
really mean to hit below the belt, Michael, but I had to say it.
Yeah, I know you did. I love you.
Well, it's certainly wonderful to have you on the team and to be on your team, and it's just so gratifying to watch how gracefully you took the tools and you moved through them. There were some moments. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about I don't know who all was there, but Jeanie brought up, or no, actually it was somebody else. I think it was maybe Michelle that brought up the day that I ended up with a knife.
Yeah, that was probably a good thing to do, though. It's probably good that you had
yeah,
it.
But it was necessary at the moment.
It was. And that's why I said, Michael, you are the bravest man I know, and I love you dearly.
Well, I accept the presence of love. You is the presence of love, and I return that love to love, and I'm just honored and delighted to have you on the team, and I look forward to the next time we get to be eyeball to eyeball and hug both your necks.
Yeah, I was just going to say, next time you're down in Virginia, you got to come stay with us, brother. We got to... Huh? Oh, what I said? Oh, I said Virginia because I'm heading up there. That's a Freudian slip for you. Next time you're down in Florida, you need to come to our new place.
We certainly will. I was going to say, if you moved to Virginia, you've got to be kidding.
God,
okay.
no.
Well, we hold the space for your journey up to see your daughter put on her uniform and move into the next level of her life. We hold that you're able to really be that space of love, and whatever residual there is left between you and your former, that you're able to just take those layers, peel them off, let them go, and be the space of love for her as well, because she doesn't have the tools. And it always remains for the one who's got the tools. It always remains for the one who's got the tools to take the higher path and lead the way to the higher path. So we'll hold the space for you.
Thank you, my friend. I love you. Love you, Jeanie.
Michael.
All right, sure. I hear Michelle back there.
Too.
I hear Michelle popping in back there.
Congratulations on your son.
Oh, I know. Isn't that so cool? Thank you. I had the best Mother's Day ever for that one.
I bet.
That was pretty cool.
So awesome.
So, Michael, it was me because we were down in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And you were talking to the group, and remember we went to lunch after, and Lisa was there and Shirley, and we were explaining the story, Michael, about how much fear got resonated when Dr. Ryce wanted to take your knife from you, and you didn't want to let go of your protection. And it was a great metaphor, but it certainly had an opportunity for all of us in terms of what it was resonating related to our fear. Like, oh, my God, the boulder is right.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
we've had a few rounds of that.
Now I'm a big teddy bear. I'm easy.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know. I get your buttered toast, but not at first. Hello. You gave me plenty of opportunities in that intensive when I brought my daughter down, and you called me out in front of the group about how I dismissed her. And, as a 16-year-old teenager, having this room full of adults validate her mother's dismissal of her, it was probably one of her greatest healing moments.
Yeah.
So yeah,
big stuff.
It certainly
was.
What
you say, Michael? If you want to go, fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's it. The Africans that brought that proverb forward knew exactly what they were talking about, and that's the beauty of the intensive, is the kind of support that comes from each person. How each person comes together to be part of that process is pretty amazing, and the kinds of support that are offered and the kind of things that are allowed to surface and move through. Pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. Amazing stuff.
So,
yeah.
Michael, I asked Jeanie to turn on the microphone before you left because I wanted to share my gratitude for you being on the air today to give this a testimonial, so to speak. As luck would have it, so how these things go. I had a new client who I invited to do some worksheets, and we've been working together about a month. And he, he assured me he did. He downloaded those worksheets, and he's got a whole stack of them. And today, it's almost 2-3 weeks later, admitted that he hasn't used a one. So my 12 o'clock canceled. They had to reschedule for a later time. And so I had an extra hour free, and I said, well, now that I have you here, I'm going to take some time, do my notes and whatnot, and some paperwork, and I'm going to give you the PowerPoint video. So he just finished Constantino's PowerPoint, and we went through a couple worksheets together with some of his issues, and then now it's 1 o'clock. Let's, tune in the show. And we tune into the show right when the woman before you was talking about drinking, and he's in early recovery, and I said, step works great, forgiveness works better. And I'm listening to you tell your testimonial, and I'm listening from my client's ears, listening to the testimonial, on the cusp of the brink of hearing for the first time how powerful the tools really can, seeing, the demonstration with a personal example, listening to the PowerPoint video, and then you coming on with, a testimonial that is hard on. And I'm here falling, listening to this, and just being so grateful for the opportunity to be, honored with the opportunity to, connect people like that and connect Ruka and, do my own work and support other people in doing their work. And then, Michael, you haven't been on in months and months. And, what are the chances, you come in right when this guy needs to hear, wow, it isn't the therapist is trying to feed me it. It isn't, something I'm reading in a book. It's a real live guy who's, moved through stuff that makes drinking look like baby cakes in terms of, the military experience. So, I have so much gratitude and appreciation for you and the work right now and my client's willingness to listen to this show and just be like, okay, maybe there's something here for me. Don't
Good.
believe what we say. So I just
talk
want
is
to share
cheap.
that.
You got to walk the walk, and this is the only reason why I did this work. Is because it became very, very abundant to me that Michael walked the walk, and if that man can walk the walk, and he's the teacher, then I sure as heck can do everything in my power to walk the walk, and it's changed my life. It really, really has. And the universe is a trip. I mean, when I was sitting here and I heard Michael start to talk, and I realized, holy crap, he's talking about me. I was like, oh, what a trip. Yeah.
What fun. Well, it's just awesome. And Michelle, just so that those who are listening to the show might not know, your son is an athlete, and this weekend you went to one of his meets, and he won.
He won a gold medal. He won the Big Ten championships for 5K. You can run it in 14 minutes. And
that's awesome.
It was interesting because the interview, he talks about he wasn't really expected to do as well as he did, and something shifted, and he didn't even realize that he was kind of talking about forgiveness work, but in his roundabout way, that he did something that he had never done before, and he stopped worrying about the competition in the sense that there wasn't, usually when you're running on the track like that, because you don't have a way to time your laps, you just kind of have to go by how you do it in sorry. I'll talk later.
Okay, blessings. Everybody, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world.